Welcome to the Survive Scale Soar podcast. Hear and learn through the success of others how to build the life and business you deserve. Learn to overcome failure, what it means to seek out growth, and how to become the best possible version of yourself. And now, here's your host, coach, entrepreneur, husband and father, and author of the #1 best-selling book, Survive Scale Soar, Jeremy Williams.
And welcome back to the Survive Scale Soar podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy. And the reminder, this show comes in two formats. We have Real Talks, which is just me and the mic sharing what's going on in the world today and how it impacts small businesses. The second format is Success Talks. And that's where I get to interview some of the top people in their respected industry, and they share with you what has made them successful on their journey. And today is a Success Talk, and I am honored to have Katie Cooper, broker and founder of the Home Sweet Home Real Estate Group. How are you doing today, Katie?
I'm doing good. Thank you. And thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while. We crossed paths back in 2015. And I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking, wow, 8 years goes by incredibly fast.
Oh, fast. Yes, I agree.
And
life just flies by before we know it.
Exactly. I thought about that with my kids on this cruise this last week. It's just amazing that we were sitting there thinking this may be our last spring break cruise with the entire family. So,
yeah. So I'm going through those battles as well with my kids because they're 8, 11, and 16 now. And it's just, I'm not ready for those life changes at all.
Yeah, our daughter's the same age, 16, and we're doing the college tours right now. She's driving, the independence factor, and all those things. I'm right there with you in that boat, and it just feels like tomorrow they're going to be gone, and it is a struggle as a parent to figure out how to deal with that.
For sure.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Katie.
So as you said, I'm the broker and founder of the Home Sweet Home Real Estate Group. I went to Sam Houston State University. I got a business degree. I went to one of my professors towards graduation, and I said, "Hey, what do you think I should do? I'm thinking about I was going to take a little time off, and then I was going to apply to get my MBA or go to law school." And I had taken his entrepreneurship classes, several of them. And he said, I think you need to go out and do some type of sales or something like that. He said, your business plans and the different things that you did in this class lead me to believe that you would do really well in that type of an industry. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like real estate? And he was like, yeah, I mean, that's an option. And so we talked a little bit, and I decided I was going to pursue it for a year or two. And just see how it went. And then, of course, if I didn't like it, I could always apply and go back to school like I had initially thought. So I graduated from SAM. I started real estate classes like the next month. Had my license by the very, very end of 2005. Got into real estate, and it just worked. So got into real estate, started my family. Real estate I enjoy it, and it excelled well for me typically it takes an agent about 2 years, right, to get going. And that's about where I was. I was right in line with that.
That's awesome. And obviously from the success you've had over the years watching you, that was a great decision to pursue real estate. Katie, you've been with a few national brokerages in the past, and you made the decision to jump. What made you take that step of becoming the broker and founder of the Home Sweet Home Real Estate Group?
Well, becoming the broker wasn't a huge decision because I had the business degree, so I had the hours. And by the time I decided to pursue a broker's license, I had 13 years of CE classes and lots of experience. So getting that wasn't a big obstacle. It was just a matter of a broker responsibility class and taking the test. So that really wasn't a big decision in and of itself. Now, deciding to go out on our own, it was just kind of a series of things that happened with my team over probably a year period that what our ultimate decision was that we weren't getting value at the national brokerage that we were at. We were getting a logo, we were getting a reputation, but we had a good reputation. We had a business name, but our brand, because it was branded like this as opposed to a name. Now, we did start out as the Katie Cooper team, but that evolved like many things do in this business. So we had a brand that we thought could be a brokerage. And in the end, we just didn't see the value anymore. Like we weren't getting leads. We didn't have an office. We weren't getting any marketing incentives. We were paying for all of our signs and lock boxes and anything we wanted to do, we were paying for. And we no longer needed to pay for the logo. Like it just wasn't something that we needed. And with me being so close to being able to become a broker, that wasn't a big deal as well. So my team and I talked, there was just 3 of us at the time. We talked at the end of probably the middle of 2018, and it evolved. And by the end of 2018, we were on the right track to open it.
Yeah. So, I think that's the biggest challenge, especially with the big box brokers today, and even with the independents, is making sure that the value is high enough that those that come alongside you to be affiliated with you, that there's no reason to leave. And so I see that challenge a lot, both in the big brokerage, box brokerage realm, and then also with the independents. What do you think is the biggest benefit, or what benefit have you found being an independent broker?
Well, I'm kind of a pragmatic thinker, Jeremy. So when I see a problem, or I see that a system isn't functioning efficiently, I tend to want to fix it. And when you're working under another company, it's not always something that you can fix, right? So there's a lot of turnover in the industry, right? And I've tried to do my best at implementing different things to prevent things like that. And so
what do you think is the biggest, what do you think is the thing that you've done that has made the improvement in not having the turnover that the industry typically has?
Well, I think that our agents understand that we genuinely care about their success. I mean, we're a small brokerage, right? So we genuinely care. We genuinely try to, when we see a problem, we try to fix it. So, there's different things. I've read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, or listened to it actually, probably 25 times. And that's a great book. And there's a lot of systems that they talk about in there. And not every agent has the skills to implement some of that, if that makes sense. But what I've tried to do from a brokerage perspective is not only implement some of those things, but also some of the tips and tricks and ideas and processes that some other big teams use and coaches suggest, right? So when I see that something is working, then I will try to implement it at our office on a big scale.
Yeah, it's taking those skill sets and finding which ones work, which ones don't, scrapping the ones that don't, and turning it from a level 6 to a level 10 on the ones that do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right. And you can continually adjust, right? Whereas if you're at a big model, there's some things you can't adjust. So
yeah, the ship is too big, and to steer it into a different direction or to change course slightly can be really challenging.
Right. I mean, even with our small brokerage, one little change I realize is going to take 6 months for everybody to be on board.
Yeah, I get that at the macro and micro level. What do you think has been so we talked about what's been a great thing about being an independent broker. What do you think's been the challenge?
For me personally, from my perspective, I had more challenges as a realtor working under a big brand, because there was a lot of things that I wanted control over, I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do. So growing pains in a way, right? I mean, you gradually, sometimes you outgrow things. Expectations of competency. We have despite the fact that we can implement all kinds of things to avoid turnover, there are some people that get licensed that you turn them over, right?
Sure.
Because they're not making competent decisions for the consumer and the client. And so those are hard decisions to make. And I'm naturally a people pleaser. I'm naturally interested in leading a group to all do positive and happy things. And so in some cases, those decisions are hard.
Yeah. So with that being a challenge, though, with you operating on a smaller scale and having the close connections that you do with each of your agents, that's probably a little easier to correct.
Yes and no. It depends on the other personality, right? You can repeat yourself as many times as you're willing to repeat yourself, right? But then it comes a time where, I'm kind of a 3 strikes girl, like a 3 strikes leader. Like if you are continually making incompetent decisions, we're gonna have a problem. And I feel like that being the main leader of an organization, that's probably something that I have a hard time with.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have those standards, though. There's a lot of companies out there that don't. They'll let things slide. I think for the almighty dollar. Yet I think you do have to have those standards, and obviously people will make mistakes, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The first time, the second time, it's no longer a mistake.
Well, and if it's a repeated mistake, right? Yeah, and so. I mean, we get it that not everyone is going to come out of real estate school and be amazing, or not everyone is going to come from a brokerage that didn't train them and be amazing, because we've had just as much of that. We get that. It's that if we are offering the training and you're not coming, or you're still not doing it right, despite the fact that we know you know how to do it, that it just becomes problematic. And honestly, for the most part, we have not had that much trouble. But there has been cases where we have, and it's had to be dealt with,
And that's what a good broker does, right? Even when it's challenging, is being able to recognize those issues, which are most oftentimes choices that they make. They kind of make their own bed.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
to be that broker that makes that decision.
We have a brand to protect. We're not a big brand, right? So we're not a big national brand that's been around forever. We have a brand that has to be protected, because we don't want consumers on a local level to say, those agents don't know what they're doing, or whatever. It's funny because agents will come to our brokerage and they may have been in another brokerage for 2 or 3 years. And, we'll sit down and do onboarding with them. And and this isn't everybody, this is just some, but I'm just like, wow, like I can't believe that you're like, it's just, sometimes it's mind blowing, but overall it's all been great. Again, it's just those handful of times that you're kind of like, well, you're like beating your head up against the wall. And this brand is important. I don't want just, 100 realtors that can breathe. I want competent, consumer driven. Like I want them to make sure that they're being competent in the community and that they have good reputations and things like that.
100%. I appreciate that. How do you identify and attract talent to your team?
Well, at this point, it's just been really good luck. Rachel and I started working together in 2014. So we've been working together for 9 years. She is now our lead trainer and realtor liaison. She talks to new agents. I talk to new agents. She does some training. I do some training. She's still in production. I, for the most part, am not in production so much anymore, because the brokerage roll at about 20 agents was too much for me to also still be doing much production, much more than 1 or 2 a year. But she, so she was, I got so lucky with her. She is an amazing rock star. She's an amazing leader for this brokerage. And then we have an amazing transaction coordinator that everyone just seems to love. And then we have 2 amazing social media marketing pros that that help out the agents with whether they're experienced or new agents, like with different things that they need to get going. I had realized that we really needed to implement video in the brokerage, and I really made a good initiative to do that last year, and I failed. So we're trying again this year, and I have kind of given that task to one of our agents, like, you lead this, like you help me lead and do the videos. So, and everyone, including our social media, they're amazing. Now, as far as recruiting talented realtors, most of our growth has been organic. It's been word of mouth. It's been, they've seen our stuff on social media and they became interested that way. It's one of the agents in the office bringing on, talking about the Home Sweet Home group, and then that person comes and works with us. It's really just like that. Like, we really haven't actively went out and we haven't had any major recruiting initiatives. We don't cold call other teams. We don't other realtors. It's just kind of happened naturally at this point. Now, I really want to work on expansion to other markets. And so I feel like I'm really going to have to address that question, right, that you've asked, and try to decide like how best to handle that, because that's going to be a little harder to do.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be something where you've got to be a little more purposeful and intentional. Yet I think your local growth, it sounds like, and you might agree, is that the talent that you have around you is naturally attracting other talented individuals.
Yeah, well, it's the talent, and it's the group camaraderie, and it's just the fact that they see how passionate we are about their success, because we do genuinely care, and we want to make sure, like, there's a lot of things that we implement for them from a brokerage scale that just really, I feel like, makes their lives easier, right? And so what I don't want to do is become the broker that is obsolete and not providing good value to the team.
That's awesome. So the market is obviously changing up a little bit. I don't want to say it's necessarily shifted, yet it may be moving that direction. Definitely different than the COVID market, which is actually a hyperbolic market for us.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most important skill sets that an agent, maybe they're listening today, what skill sets do they need to have in this particular market?
Tenacity. I feel like in any market, you've got to have tenacity, because every market has its own challenges. Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Absolutely. If it's you go back to the COVID market, is really good. There's a lot of transactions happening, but you might have put in 20 offers to get a deal done.
That was a hard market. Yeah. 2008 was a hard market in its own way, right? Regular markets are difficult in their own way. And then you have that type of market that just exploded, that had its own difficulties. And so what I have told my office this year is, I think it's going to be easier. Like, you're not going to have to show a buyer so many houses before you're going to be able to get them under contract. A balanced market, and it's not even balanced. I mean, it's still very much a seller's market. It just isn't a seller's market on steroids like it was post-COVID. But are we ever in a normal market? I mean, I feel like it's just always juggles, right? It's just, there's always something. Right. So in this industry, you just got to be willing to just grab onto what you can and make it work,
So do you think a lot of the agents that kind of come in and maybe the market is easier and things are falling in their lap. And when there is a slight change, do you think it is the tenacity that causes them to leave, the lack of
tenacity? I think the lack of tenacity can cause a realtor to leave the industry in any market. And I mean, you have to be, there are so many, people get into the real estate business thinking that it's an easy business, and it's really not. I mean, it really takes a lot more. It's not house hunters, right? It really takes a lot more than people expect. And when I'm meeting with people who are considering getting in the business, or who are about to be done with whatever, I'm very honest. Like, I am an open book. Like, you're going to have your own challenges, and you've got to be prepared for those, or the failure rate's high, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's what, 70,
like
80%?
It's like 80%. One time I shared that I went to a real estate school and was speaking there, and I shared that statistic with the room because it was the God honest truth. I get a call from the real estate school, and I was banned for 6 months because I scared everybody away. Yeah, I got in trouble
But
for being honest.
Like, it is brutal honesty, but it is true, because you have to get into this business. You have to know how to be a business owner. You have to wear any number of hats in one day. Like, you might wake up one day and only have to wear a buyer's agent hat that day. But chances are you're gonna have to wear a buyer's agent hat. You're gonna have to wear a listing hat. You're gonna have to wear a marketing hat. You're gonna have to wear a negotiation hat. And then you're gonna get back to your computer late at night and you're gonna have to be a contractor hat. Like, and they don't expect that, right? And but it's important that when you're getting into this business, you really prepare yourself, because you also have to be resilient, because not only are your friends going to upset you over real estate transactions, your family's going to upset you over real estate transactions, your neighbor's going to upset you over real estate, and you just have to look at your shoulder, and you just got to knock it off and keep going. Like, that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, I was always tempted to charge my family 7% instead of 6%.
Yeah,
they were the tougher transactions. And then I was going to follow up.
I haven't worked with a lot of family because I don't have a whole lot of family in this area. I mean, I have some of my husband's family, and that really hasn't been difficult. But there's been like other agents like talk about like family using other agents, or like all the time in these realtor groups on social media, it was like, oh, my sister did this, or my neighbor, and I'm just like, shake it off and move on, girlfriend, because it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen to the top producers. It's going to happen to the new agents. And it's frustrating. But in many cases, you probably did not market to them well enough in your database.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, I hear that all the time. I didn't get the listing that was next door to my house. I was like, well, when's the last time you talked to them about real estate? Well, I haven't. I thought they knew.
Yeah, no, you cannot be a secret realtor. Secret realtor, secret agent is just not a thing. Like, you have to stay top of mind with your database at all times. And my team, because I say that all the time, my team now, sometimes they finish my sentence. But that's just how it is. You've got to stay in front of them. If you're not staying in front of them, 7 other people are, and it's going to happen. And so one of the things that we have implemented at our brokerage is, like Gary Keller says in that book, you're supposed to touch your database a certain number of times a year. It's 33, right? It's been a while since I read it, 33. And we have those systems set up. Like, you're as a experienced realtor, as a average realtor, as a new realtor, if your stuff goes in the database, your people they're going to hear from you. But you've got to do your part.
Yeah, it was 33. I think it's a lot more now.
You feel like it's a lot more?
I think it's in the range of closer to 50. And the reason being is just all the noise that you have to cut through today.
Right.
All the different social media channel platforms and all the companies that email, the consumer, and there's just a lot more noise out there. And then you've probably heard this phrase. It came from a former brokerage you participated in. It was, it's simple, not easy. And I have to argue it's not simple and it's not easy. It's one of these businesses that I think there's so many different ways to lead generate today. And there's so much information being pumped to the agents that they're like, oh, I'll go try this. And then they do it for like a day. They do one open house and they're like, yeah, it didn't work. And then
Too
they're
many
like,
shiny objects. Too many
every
shiny
day.
objects. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, you got to commit to what you're going to do with this and what you're going to do with this. And then sometimes they'll come to me and like, okay, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, don't worry about that. Like, just do these things. So I'm big on automation things. Like HAR has that amazing home beat system that you can set homeowners up on where they get that free monthly automated community analysis. Like, who wouldn't want that? Like, that's so valuable. Like, for anyone who wants to know what their neighbor's house sold for, they should be set up on that system, including everybody else.
And that's what I'm sharing with my coaching clients now is like lead with relationship. I think relationship is key. And then find the support technology that gives value.
Yes.
And make sure that you're implementing that. I think that's going to be the way forward. If somebody's considering a career in real estate, and we might have touched on a couple of these things, but what questions should they ask themselves before they start down that path?
Well, there's so many questions, right? So I feel like if someone is considering a career in real estate, they ought to get on YouTube for about 6 months and they ought to watch videos on there. They ought to watch videos from realtors, videos from coaches, videos from leaders in the industry to really get a understanding of what it takes. And that still isn't going to give you an understanding, but it's going to give you more than what you're going to get if you just go to real estate school. Because real estate school, in my opinion, is a joke. You get out and you absolutely still don't know what you're doing. So you've got to understand how long it takes to really get going. I mean, there are success stories where someone gets into the industry and they just go and they do really well. But for most and for the average number of realtors, it takes a couple of years. You've got to build that business. You've got to get that database to trust you. You've got to learn your art. You've got to work on your systems and what you're doing. And it's hard for them to really go out and produce a lot whenever they really don't completely understand it themselves yet. And that's one thing that we really focus on is not just saying go do this, but a very detailed list on how to do it. So paying attention to what other people are saying, making sure that you are ready for the long haul, making sure that you have some savings, or if you're working part-time at something else, that's fine. But most part-time or second career agents, it's difficult for them. Now, I've had a couple that have done very well with it being their additional career, but in many cases that doesn't happen, especially if you have kids at home or you have family needs that prevent you from dedicating more hours to work, right? You've got to make sure that you like people, right? You can't get into this business and not like people unless you have the funds to, and there have been agents do this, have the funds to hire the people to go out and be the people and you be the business person, right? That's a possibility as well. Introverts don't typically do well in this business. So extrovert qualities is going to be helpful. Having a strong personality and understanding of business concepts is important. And being able to multitask and think outside of the box is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like to share my story with, I came into real estate, got my license, joined Keller Williams at the time. First day, got a listing, secured the listing. Week later, contracted with the neighbor across the street.
That's
They're
awesome.
buying it for their mother-in-law. So I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then 6 months later until my next closing. And so definitely you want to be set up and make sure that you don't have these unrealistic expectations. It's typically your money is going to fall 30, 60, 90 days out from the activities that you do today. So giving yourself that time and to build that skill set takes a little bit of time. So not walking in with that unrealistic expectation that's really great advice. So the market, tell us a little bit about the market that you serve in, and how is the market in your area?
So we are located kind of Montgomery, Harris County area. We do have agents in Houston, but we service like the entire area. I would say our primary area is Montgomery County. So like the Woodlands, Conroe, Montgomery, Magnolia, Tomball's Harris County, but we do a lot of stuff in Spring. We have an agent who's very proficient in College Station. We have several that are very proficient in Huntsville. We have one over in like Splendora, New Caney, things like that. We do Kingwood, we do Humboldt, we do Cypress. Pretty much the entire Houston area. Right now it is pretty focused on the north side, but I'm sure it'll change in the future.
And do you see the market? Do you see it a buyer's market, balanced market, seller's market? What do you see right now?
I think we're still leaning more towards the seller's market in all of our markets. Now, has it slowed down? Yes. I think that'll help my cough. Has it slowed down? Yes. It's not a 2020 or a 2021 market anymore, but it's still a very strong market. And I think it's stronger than what 2018 was. So it's still a strong market. You have all of these like people trying to blast that, oh, the market's going to crash or this or that. I'm not personally seeing that yet. People are trying to say, oh, 2008, this and that. Well, gosh, our like the variables are so much different. Like in 2008, it was, people didn't have equity in their homes. People were in subprime mortgages. People were buying homes that they didn't qualify for that home. Like they didn't make enough money to pay that mortgage. The market was oversaturated. There was too much inventory. And then the whole mortgage thing like erupted, right? So then you have lenders that are cracking down on their lending and things like that. In today's market, it's just slowed down. Like the interest rates are still good. No, they're not giving you mortgages anymore, but it's still a good rate. And as long as, and what I tell my team is, my group is, you got to continue to educate your consumers and your database and your sphere on what's really going on in the market, because the news just tries to just make it so much different than it is. And, and then consumers kind of think differently. So we have to be the educators, right? We have to go out there and we have to tell them like what's really going on. And what's really going on is we had a crazy real estate market with super low mortgage rates and a movement of people because of COVID that I feel like everyone, like after COVID, they just felt like they needed to adjust a little bit. Like they needed home offices. They wanted more land. They wanted out of the city. They wanted different school districts. There was just so many reasons why people moved after that. It was like, well, plus the interest rates. But it was just like a light bulb went off in everyone's head. And because of interest rates and life changes and different things like that, everybody just wanted to move at the same time. And there just wasn't enough inventory. There's still not enough inventory. I mean, we still have a shortage of inventory. I think we had 2 open houses this past weekend, maybe 1 open house and 1 sale, both right around $1 million, and they sold like within days. So it's still a strong market. In fact, in my opinion, if I was in the market myself, buying and selling, I would prefer to do it today as opposed to 2 years ago, because I have more inventory to choose from and I can negotiate things that I could not have negotiated 2 years ago. You can negotiate title policy, you can negotiate home warranty, you can negotiate off the price in some cases, especially builders. You can negotiate inspection repairs, things like that. You couldn't do any of that in the 2021, 2021, first part of 2022 market. And so I just feel like we're just kind of at like a jolt in the market, right? Like we're just kind of all like, oh, like wait, like it was doing this and now it's not doing that, but it's still very much moving. Like the homes are moving, the homes are selling. New construction, that's where you are going to be able to get amazing deals right now, because these developers and these builders have overbuilt just a bit. And so you are getting some substantial deals on that inventory. But as far as resale, you still have shortage of inventory.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is not going to cause a market crash.
We bought our house while in Fort Lauderdale. Like we were sitting there on our bed, and our agent was giving a Facebook tour, and we bought it sight unseen. Within the first 2 hours, it was on the market, full price, no repairs negotiated, nothing. Yeah. And in this market, you would be able to negotiate more. So there are a lot of advantages. Talking about interest rates, my wife and I bought our first home back when they had first and second. So I bought it 7.5 on the first, and then 10 on the second. Oh yeah. And that was just that's what it was. And we were still going to buy a home. So, it's just, I think sometimes we get caught up in these little changes, yet people are still going to move for whatever reason they decide to move.
Right. No, you're totally right. And why would you be worried about paying a higher rate on your mortgage as opposed to paying someone else's mortgage? As far as if somebody's still leasing, why would you do that? Like if you have the credit and the down payment, and the income to qualify for a house, why would you continue to pay off someone else's debt? That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and there's you could buy down points, you can wait a while, you can refinance. Rates will probably come back down at some point. So there's a lot of different things that I think as realtors we get caught up on and say, well, the market's not as good or it's not as good as it could be, when the opportunity is still there.
I think it's better. It's better. Our sellers aren't having to go into 6 months of a lease to wait and find something. Like we can get contingencies. We are getting contingencies. I think we have 2 contingencies for the sale of other houses right now. It's just easier. It's just an easier market for everyone.
So think about that. It's kind of funny. Like there's a couple things that are funny about this. Is like a lot of agents I talk to now that came in within the last 3 years, when we talk about open houses, they're like, they don't work. Well, obviously they didn't work in that market because there was no time to host an open house. And
we still did them.
Yeah. And they work.
We
and
so open houses.
Yeah. So you have a lot of agents that have come into these markets, and you went through the 2008. So you have an understanding of what it could be and what it's been. Yeah. And you just make the adjustments in those markets.
Right. I won't say that I got lucky with 2008, but the timing of 2008 worked for me because I hadn't been in the industry long enough to really be too affected. And when 2008 happened, they did that whole tax credit. So I was young at the time. I was in my 20s. And so that built my business, right? And so not all changes are bad. Some changes are very good because I was able to use that tax credit and get a ton of people in homes. And since then, they've moved up with my team or myself multiple times in some cases and amassed great equity in those homes that they purchased. I want to just slap myself in the face every time I think of all the homes that I didn't buy 16 years ago that, gosh, I can't even imagine how crazy rich I would be if I had the funds to buy some of those houses, because we were selling houses back then for 100,000 that would probably sell for 230 today.
Yeah, we have a neighborhood in Kingwood where $50,000-$60,000 for 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,200 square foot. Now you could sell those 250 to 300. Yeah. And I was like, what if I have 20 or 30 of those? That would be awesome.
Yeah, real estate is always a good investment, and I try to preach that to people. In my opinion, it's a better investment than a 401k.
So do you encourage that of your team members as well to invest?
I encourage them to encourage it.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a big deal. We did our first investment property this last year, and just looking at the amount of equity we've already achieved just in 1 year of the price increases, along with the rents being paid down, it's like a no-brainer.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you something that's a little more personal, and I think it's important for the audience to hear this. Is that we all have challenges. Sometimes it's just a challenge in the business. Sometimes it's challenges in life which could bleed over into our business. And you have MS. How has that impacted you, and how do you navigate the waters of your business having that?
Well, thankfully, I have a very mild form. I mean, there's only several forms, but my MS is very mild. And so I don't tend to have a lot of problems with the disease. But I'm just kind of one of those people where I'm just not going to let it stop me. Right. I still want to go out and I pretty much live life as if I don't have it. About the only time that the things that do affect me as far as my energy and things like that is if I get overheated. So as far as going from an agent to having a team to having a brokerage, I'm glad I made those steps. Now, I wasn't diagnosed until it was before I had the brokerage, but I had the team at the time. But I'm probably could not go out and do 10 hours of showing in 100-degree temperatures. Like that would, that would honestly, that may wear anyone out over the age of 40. But that would probably get to me. But for the most part, it has not affected my business. But there's also amazing miracle drugs on the market now. In fact, I go in and I go to the med center twice a year and I do my infusion. And as long as, because when they give me my infusion, they also give me Benadryl. As long as the Benadryl doesn't affect me too much, I'm usually there working on my computer all day. So I'm just that type of personality in that life has to go on. And it works.
I think that's inspiring because I know lots of people that would look at that and take an approach in life where they'll give up, or they just won't go as hard, or they pull back. And sometimes it's necessary. Yet there's a lot of times that it's more a mindset thing than it is actually a physical thing. And I think it's inspiring that you have that attitude of, hey, I've got this, I'm dealing with it. I'm going and taking the medication that I need to. I know what can hinder me, so I'm going to avoid that.
Yeah.
And you just keep going.
There are adjustments that we make, right? Diabetics have to make adjustments to their workloads, and people who get migraines, they have to make adjustments. And again, I've been very blessed in that it has not affected my life so much. And there are the drugs that are out today. I may never have another attack. But I was also, when I did first get sick, I was very determined to find the answer. And I'm glad I did, because so often, because MS is not treated as an emergency. So as long as if you may go with a neurological problem to the ER, but if they don't think that you have signs of a seizure or something's going on, like with a brain tumor or something like that, they're going to send you home and refer you to a neurologist. And I was very lucky that I was able to get into a doctor quick, get the diagnosis, and work towards a treatment plan. And again, in today's world, the drugs that they have are pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Well, Katie, you're an inspiration in that.
Thank
you for sharing that. Somebody's listening today, and maybe they're here in the greater Houston area, or maybe they're living in one of those markets you'd like to expand to. And how can they learn more about the Home Sweet Home Real Estate Group, and how can they connect with you?
So they can add me on Facebook, Kate Cooper. They can go to our website, homesweethomegroup.com. That will have direct links to contact me. And I would be happy to answer any questions that they would have.
Awesome. Well, Katie, thank you for taking the time today. It's great to catch up. I know my audience is going to be blessed by the message that you shared today. There's so many great nuggets in there, whether somebody's currently in the market or looking to start their real estate career. Maybe they're in one of those mindsets, oh, the world is terrible and collapsing, and they heard some words today that might inspire them to get back up and just keep going. So I thank you for your time today and sharing this message.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Survive Scale Soar podcast. If you heard something that made a difference in your life today, share it with someone that might benefit and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Learn more about the host of this podcast and coaching services offered by Red Hawk Coaching by visiting www.redhawkcoaching.com.